Hello, everyone. Today's show is about unifying and optimizing data to improve sports and entertainment. My name is Timo Elliott, and I'm an innovation evangelist for SAP. This Better Together conversation is where SAP gives the microphone to our customers and partners for an unfiltered look at how they're innovating with SAP's business technology platform to unlock business value. The goal is to quickly explain the project and its benefits, but then focus on the how. What technology was used to achieve the results, with an emphasis on sharing the lessons learned and tips and tricks to make you successful with your projects. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Nada Tabatabai, Vice President, Business Analytics and Technology at San Jose Sharks.
So great to
Tell
be
us
here.
about your role and organization and what we can learn.
I oversee business technology and analytics with Shark Sports Entertainment. As you mentioned, our biggest property and perhaps the best known property is the NHL San Jose Sharks. We also have another hockey team called the San Jose Barracuda, which is the AHL team or the farm team of the San Jose Sharks. Both teams play out of the SAP Center in San Jose, which hosts on average around 170 events a year. Both Sharks and Barracuda, as I mentioned, play here, but we also host family events. Like Disney on Ice was here last week. We have different types of concerts and, from rock concerts to R&B to events like Monster Jam and even NCAA tournaments. We also operate and own 3 different ice facilities in the Bay Area, in San Jose, in Fremont, and in Oakland. You can find different types of ice-related activities and events there, from recreational hockey to curling to ice dancing lessons to skating lessons and even hockey lessons there. And we also have a nonprofit organization called Sharks Foundation.
And you're a veteran of that intersection between sports and entertainment. Explain a little bit of your background.
I started in the sports industry in 2005. Previous to that, I worked in retail, which is very much data-driven. Even at the time, we used a lot of our data captured in our POS systems and on-run retail to, try to upsell, cross-sell customers and service them better. I moved to the sports industry in Toronto in 2005. That's where I'm from. And at the time, data was very new to sports. Everybody probably knows about the Moneyball situation, data being used on the team side and on the athletic side. On the business side, it was very new. And I was perhaps one of the first employees in the professional sports teams in North America that was hired with a specific focus on data. We were different organizations were looking at where the future of business in general is going. Fans' behavior had changed a lot already. We are now dealing, even at the time, a lot more casual fans versus diehard fans. Different broadcasts elements have changed the sports industry. And in general, like a lot of other things, fans were changing and everything else was changing. So data became a focus for a lot of the sports organization. And there was a movement there. From there, I moved to, I was there for 9 years, and this was a journey that very much evolved from what is data and what are you doing with this, till something that became really a focal point of the organization, and that organization still very much one of the best in what they do. I moved to a more of a consulting situation, I guess, working with several different sports teams in North America. And that was quite fun because, you're working with teams in different markets, in different situations. Some are champions, some are just getting into the industry, different needs and different resources. And that was quite interesting. And I came to the Sharks in 2015. It has also been a journey here. So it's never a boring day.
And tell us about how your team is structured and what technology you're using.
For sure. So when I started, my focus was only on business intelligence aspects of what the organization was doing. Very focused on fan data and ticket sales data, even ticket pricing, how we are pricing the tickets, very similar to how an airline might price their seats they're selling. We started at the time, the first technology we brought in was a CRM system, SAP Sales Cloud, with some customization that are built in specifically for our industry. It was very important for us to understand the customer touchpoints a lot better. We have a lot of reps that are focused on retaining our season ticket holders and really providing a great service to our season ticket holders. And there was nowhere that this data was captured. We didn't know who has called whom and what that customer said. And maybe there were actually season ticket holders that nobody had talked to them for a while. So understanding that workflow, understanding the processes was a huge focus of us. We started building on top of that. We brought in more marketing automation with SAP's Marketing Cloud, and it just kept on building from there. Right now, 2 years ago, I also started looking after our IT department, and that also opened my eye towards the overall technology and the data across the organization. Of course, the customer data is a big part of that, but the data that we all use as employees are also a big part of that. Business operational data is a huge part of that. So this really became a more holistic look of, before I used to talk about data and I would just be talking about customer data. Now it's everything across the organization, from the data that we have on our HR systems, the customer survey data, the employee survey data, the food and beverage sale, the operational aspects of what happens in our parkings, perhaps, to everything else. For that, we recently brought in, well, I guess it's almost going to be a year now, maybe 9 months, SAP's Data Warehouse Cloud with SAP Analytics Cloud that is really unifying all of our data sources across the organization into a more digestible, easily accessible portal that different people in the organization can access the data that they need when they need it.
And you have a great entry for the SAP Innovation Awards that talks about that. If anybody is interested, they can go and find details at sap.com/innovation awards and go. We've already opened the awards for 2022. We'd love for anybody listening to take it, and we're looking forward to hearing about your next project. But the information is still available if you scroll down and click on 2021. So about for example, the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud project, what are your big takeaways and lessons learned for somebody who, I think everybody listening to this will have some problem along those lines where I've got all of these different data sources, there are different silos, I've got competing people asking me to combine that information in different ways. How do you get that project started? Where do you go first? What's your advice to people for starting that journey?
So let me give you a little bit of a background. As I mentioned, our industry has a lot of data, but it's important to know where this data comes from. We do have different types of, our sports industry is almost like 4 or 5 different industries. One, of course, we sell tickets, people are coming to our buildings, but we're also selling food and beverage. Some organizations have restaurants, even off-site. We are selling merchandise to our fans. There's parking that some of us manage. So there's ticket sales for that or parking stop sales for that. And then the entry level into that, the ingress and regress is also a very important piece of data. Of course, there's marketing data, digital data, your mobile app, all of that are data sources.
So you're a mini conglomerate of different entities almost, all trying to make all of that unified.
That's a great way of putting it. I've never thought of that, but that is really the nature of, and we are a small to medium-sized organization, but it's all these pieces that really makes it a lot more interesting and also challenging. The biggest challenge is all of these data sources are almost all with third-party vendors. Each of them are different. Each of them have a different level of technology savviness and different availabilities and different platforms that this data, the source of these data are on. So if you want to think about even 5 years ago, even 2 years ago of a data warehouse and what we were able to bring in, it was almost impossible. We are a small organization. My BI team is 3 people. My IT team is 4 people, perhaps. We can't go down the path of implementing this very heavy lift data warehouse that then we have to then start adding all the data to. It's not going to happen. The expenses to one side, the people resources is the biggest issue with a project like that. Last year, we started looking at SAP's Data Warehouse Cloud, and we did a beta test, and we very quickly saw of some of our most challenging data sources was easy to get into this, and very easy to blend with the other data sources that we wanted to bring in. So it was a no-brainer. We decided to go down that path, especially for us, because a lot of our infrastructure and a lot of our technology across the organization are SAP. But we also knew that the third-party data that we have to bring in is very easily accessible. There were built-in plugs. It was super easy, still is. So we decided to launch the project and go from beta to production. And that's what we've been focusing on for the past little bit, again, with very limited sources on my side, and the analysts that I have, the ability of what they can do. So it's been an easy project with close partnership with SAP to get it off the ground. A great example of it is, I always tell people about our VP of operations. This is the person who's responsible for end-to-end operation of the organization. When an event is happening, he needs to know how many people are coming to the building. So he has a report that he goes to on one platform that shows the attendance, sometimes live. He has another report that he looks at for the parking traffic, how many people are coming, how many parking stubs are getting sold. He has another report that somebody sends to him for the merchandise sales, and somebody types something else in an email, sent it to him for food and beverage sales. So even when you think about 4 data sources, he has to go to 4 different places to understand what's going on. And many of them, by the time he gets that report, that information is already late and it's already changed, right? So what we are focusing on is, even if it's the one data source, let's put it in the same place as everything else that he needs, that he can go into one portal, look at all the dashboards, all the information, and all the KPIs that is important for him, without having to go through and run around and get different information typed and sent to him. That is really meaningful. At a frontline staff impact, and also then he can make better business decisions. From staffing, if one gate is busy, let's move a couple of people over there. So it's really meaningful internally, and of course we can provide better fan experience based on that data to our fans.
So it's all about smashing down data silos for a holistic view, and it's only really possible thanks to those latest cloud-based technologies for an organization like yours, which is a mid-size and doesn't necessarily have the resources for a full-time, old-style, on-premise data warehouse. Now, obviously, one of the things that keeps coming up in these shows is that data quality is inevitably a problem. Unifying data from different sources is never easy. How did you address that from a technical point of view, and then also maybe from a people point of view?
It's going back to 6 years ago, the first thing we noticed when we brought in a couple of technology pieces, I remember at the time we were working with marketing, SAP's Marketing Cloud, was the data quality. We started noticing that some of the information we had on our fans were inaccurate. Data was captured very much for that moment of operational needs. So you need to sell tickets, or this has happened, or whatever the reason is, that data was captured without a lot of thinking about where the data is going to go. There was bad address information, emails that were inaccurate, just everything you can imagine, we saw that. And we also saw a lot of duplications of data. So those goes back to processes. The technology is there. You can put in whatever data you like, but creating the processes to make sure data is captured accurately and properly, but also people understand, where does this go? If you're a ticket rep at the box office capturing data, that's going to now go into the CRM system, going to go into the marketing platform, which can mean that the data information that the fan gets could be wrong, or they could never get an email for arrival information or parking information. So it really becomes a loop of the one piece of data that goes into the system. Now it's going to work its way throughout the organization and then hit the fan, and providing service with them, and what type of service you're giving them is all about the data. So, it's always technology, people, and processes. And a lot of the time it's the process that's lacking. And I have become one of those people that I'm constantly like, what is the process? So, but it is really important. You can't ignore it. Technology is a tool. You have to use it properly and put the right information in there.
Well, at SAP, we really love process in general, as you can imagine. So one thing I'm interested in is how do you do the marketing for your organization? You touched on the cultural aspects of getting people to do the right thing because it's good for the organization, because it has these impacts later on. How do you sell that, and how do you try and persuade people that aren't necessarily naturally data driven, that don't use your services today, that they should do in the future?
That is really the cultural aspect of data. And one of the things, even when I hire people, I focus on is you might be a data whiz or you can be the best analyst I've ever found, technically speaking, but you have to have those human relationship skills. They call it soft skills, but I don't really think it's a soft skill. It's to be able to translate what you're doing to something meaningful for somebody else. Almost everybody across our organization has different skill sets, really good at what they do, but that skill set might not be data. People sell tickets, provide services. We have engineers that are actually putting everything in the building together, from the boards to the seats that people sit on. We have sponsorship groups. We have parking attendants. There's many different groups of people. And of course, marketing is also a big part of that. There are a lot of people across the organization with different skill sets and different levels of comfort with data. The worst thing you can do is scare them off. I've seen people present very crazy charts, because it make them feel really good that look at my visualization and look at this, at the regression model. Exactly. But if it doesn't have an insight, and if you can't get something meaningful for the business out of it, it's really useless, because somebody's going to look at it and be like, okay. And they're not going to say, I didn't understand that. Right. So it's our job to translate that in a meaningful way to the end user. If there's a sales chart, if there's a pacing chart, okay, what do you see as the analyst? Or what does that data actually telling you? It says X. Let's dig deeper. So working with people around that is really important. More and more people are more comfortable with it, because we are now in that age that, we all have iPhones. Hopefully most of us understand the data aspects of that. But you still have to work with the group to make sure they get what they want out of it. And it's really, to me, it's a big part of what a BI department should be doing is a collaboration. They should focus on selling tickets, providing service to the fans, make sure the building opens properly and on time. Our job should be to feed them the data that they need at the time they need it, and then to make it actionable for them. Otherwise, you just have some fancy charts with no use.
Great insights. What technologies are you looking forward to in the future? You touched on regression. What about things like machine learning, AI, or mobile? Or, how do you get more out of the data you already have? Or how can you get new data that could add value?
Yes. So going back to the data quality, machine learning, we did a project a while ago to try to harness machine learning for better prediction. And really, it went back to the data quality. This is several years ago. We're like, okay, we need to get our data quality better, and we do need a little bit more history to get back into this project. And we're definitely going to do that. Machine learning is really important, I think, because it can, even in a simple way, it can do a couple of very simple things for you that then you can focus on most impactful things. Even if it's when to call somebody, when to send an email to somebody, just some simple stuff. Of course, that you can focus on bigger and more important things. But even if you can get a few things out of the way with machine learning, it would be really helpful. Our goal is to use it for prediction of renewal. If we know there are fans that are going to renew, and we know there are fans that are not going to renew, can we find that early enough that then we can make a behavior change to impact that decision? That would be, to me, quite interesting, and we're definitely going to get down that path. Then the other, I think for our industry, what would be interesting is the next best action. So now that this several things happened, what are you going to do now? You call somebody, is the next step email. Somebody came to the game, is the best next thing to do to call them. So what are those actions that you can take in terms of touch points to the fans that can be most impactful in terms of satisfaction, and then of course purchase intent. Does it make a difference if the game is a win or a loss? Does the weather make a difference? So there's a lot of different things that you can look at that makes it quite interesting. In our industry, Joe, data is always comes with, you have to always put your fan hat on, because the passion of our fans that we deal with is very unique. There are many times that I looked at a data set, I was like, oh, no way this person is going to renew, or this person is going to renew for sure. And then completely opposite of that happened because of the connection, the emotional connections we have with our fans. That is really makes it unique, and frankly makes it a lot more interesting for us.
Wonderful. So the move towards more predictive, actionable information, that would be the next big opportunity. And I would echo what you said about a lot of times when I talk to organizations about the opportunities around machine learning, the big step forward with machine learning is a small step back, where you have to go and review your information platform to make sure you have the large quantities of high quality data that then enable those high quality models going forward. Final question, what is your takeaway or recommendations for others? Something that they could do tomorrow that would help them in their analytic project success?
I would say focus on the end user experience. Really, with data people, we end up in our own little silo at times and focusing on the data and give me more data and I need more visualization and reports while not focusing on the end user of the people who are using that data. Can they access it? Is it meaningful for them? Can they access it when they need it, right? We have some of our managers are, when the event is happening, are running around the building. They're not behind their laptops, so they need to have those reports in a mobile fashion, right? We are going to build sort of like a command center, an area where all the data that somebody might need is available to them in that specific area. So are they getting what they need out of it, and can they make it actionable? Even if it's one data source, that's going to be more meaningful than if you amalgamate everything, integrate everything, unify everything, and then create your reports. That I would focus on the end user experience, and then incremental wins. Do something, show value, make a change, then go to the next things. You cannot wait to have everything in a perfect fashion, the best analytics and the data sources you ever had, and then go out and start showing people. It's good to take steps. It's also good for you probably psychologically just to have, little wins and show what you have produced, than then wait for years to have the perfect things. Because by the time that comes, the new perfect thing is around the corner that now you have to go look at.
So great points. Empathy for your internal customers, understanding what they're trying to do, in optimizing that experience. And I do have to say that you have to go beyond just asking them what they want, because they don't necessarily know what they want. That's a big part of the iteration that you mentioned, that you have to build on it until they go, once you've provided something, then they can come back and say, well, actually, I need something else. It's part of the culture change that is so important for making analytic project success.
100%. Oh, sorry. I remember one of my former bosses was like, I need a report. I'm like, I know what you want. And I would go make it for him. And it wasn't what he wanted. He wanted something else. Just asking those questions of what are you trying to get at is really, really important. What they ask for is not necessarily what they need. You got to find out what is the meaningful piece of data and piece of information and what are they trying to achieve. Then you can really build that report or whatever else it might be.
Well, thank you very much. And we could talk for hours. And one day, I hope that we will be able to at an event, maybe. But right now, that brings us to the end of this session. So thank you so much for joining me and for your insights, Neda.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure talking to you today.
And for the audience, if you'd like to hear more great examples of business technology platform success stories or participate in this series, we'd love to have you on. Suggest topics, about questions for the LinkedIn Live Q&A and so on, go to sap.com/BTP to be part of the conversation. Thank you for your attention. Best of luck with your innovation and analytics projects. And we hope to see you soon for another Better Together conversation. Goodbye.